If you've been in our space for even just a little bit, you've probably heard of my guest from today. His name is Blake Oliver. He is the co-host of the Cloud Accounting podcast. He is the founder of earmark CPE. He is the accounting community advocate for Relay Bank. And I finally have him on my podcast today to talk about his entire journey. So if this is something that you've been wondering about for a while and like, why is he everywhere? What is he doing? How did he get here? You're going to want to tune into today's episode. It's a very casual conversation. I feel like I've known the guy forever because, well, I've been listening to the Cloud Accounting podcast pretty much since it launched. So if that's you too, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's conversation with Blake. Hey, and welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm Serena Shoup. I am a CPA and mom of 3, and I'm running a virtual bookkeeping business mostly from my home. You're in the right place if you're a bookkeeper, accountant, or an accounting student, and you know that your purpose is bigger than sitting in a cubicle. If you're ready to learn some actionable tips and strategies to help you start and grow a bookkeeping or accounting business, I hope you stick around. All right. Welcome to the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast. I'm super thrilled to have you here, by the way, because when I first started my business, I think your podcast, the Cloud Accounting podcast, was one of the first ones that I started listening to. So,
that is so great to hear. Thank you so much.
Have to shout that out. So with that, Will you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Happy to. I am Blake Oliver, CPA. That stands for two things. It stands for Certified Public Accountant, but it also stands for cello playing accountant.
Oh, I was not expecting that.
Your listeners who are not watching this on YouTube or wherever, if they're just listening, they will not see the plaque that I'm holding up, but I will describe it. It is a gift from my father-in-law. Upon earning my CPA, he sent me this. It says Blake Oliver, CPA, and below that it says cello playing accountant.
That's pretty awesome.
Yes.
That is pretty awesome. I don't know if I can come up with anything clever to call myself instead of a certified public accountant.
So the reason, of course, for that is that I am a career changer. I was a musician. I majored in cello performance at a fancy university called Northwestern and ended up graduating with no actual talents other than that, really. And so it was in the middle of the Great Recession. Being a freelance musician, which is what I was not a good gig at the time. And so I picked up tutoring, and then I picked up bookkeeping. The bookkeeper at the company I was working at just quit one day. They tend to do that sometimes. I mean, it happens, right? And then I became the bookkeeper. And that, like, so I actually had a whole career as a bookkeeper for, I guess, like 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I went back to school and started studying accounting and eventually got my CPA, and I had a small firm of my own. And then was fortunate to sell that, went to work for a couple of technology companies doing product marketing, which is basically, in my case, like doing webinars, talking to people, going to conferences, writing case studies, that sort of thing. I really enjoyed that because, as you can tell, I like being on stage. Mm-hmm. This is like a thing, right? As a musician. And so that was like a way that I could do that while being part of the accounting world. So I started a podcast about 4 years ago called the Cloud Accounting Podcast. And that grew and grew and grew. And we started getting advertisers, and I was able to quit my full-time role and do that full-time, like just be a podcaster, like last year.
Wow. So. I kind of wanted to know the background of, well, I already told you I wanted to know everything, but that was kind of one of the things I've always wondered is like, was the Cloud Accounting podcast just a passion project initially?
Yes, okay. It was purely, let's just do this once a week and see what happens. And my employers tolerated it. I always made sure, this is always important. If you're doing a side project, let your employer know and get them to sign something that says that this is my property. Yeah. And so I had that. So I was doing that on the side the whole time. And so then when we actually went to make it a real business, we could. Yeah. And I do that with my co-host, David Leary, who spent 20 years at Intuit on the QuickBooks side. And so he comes to it from the side of tech. I come to it more from the side of bookkeeping, accounting. We have a ton of people in the CAS world or the bookkeeping world that listen. And it's a lot of fun. So I'm really happy to be talking to you because I feel like bookkeepers get this,
Yeah.
they like understand the technology and the accounting go together. And sometimes when I go talk to other CPAs, especially folks that are a little getting up there in year, they just don't. I mean, I went to the AICPA Engage this
Yeah.
past year and they were still doing sessions on like, what is cloud? You know,
I
so
remember when I worked at a CPA firm, it was more than, what year is this? 2022. It was more than 10 years ago. And I was a staff accountant. So basically a full charge bookkeeper, but I had some experience under my belt. So I was a staff accountant. And I remember our firm owner talking about going to this conference. We're going to talk about cloud accounting. And actually, we had transitioned to a paperless office in Tucson, Arizona, which you're in Scottsdale, right?
yeah, I'm
Okay.
not far from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Prescott, so I'm not far from you.
Oh, awesome.
But yeah, I was in Tucson and we had a very small CPA firm and all of our clients were local, but we still did everything paperless for the most part, like internally. But our clients would still come to sign the tax documents and all the things. But it's just funny that like we did have one or two clients on QuickBooks Online back there in its like first iteration and it was horrific.
Oh yeah. The first
But
one. Well, and
yeah.
that's why I did Zero. So I made the switch to the cloud from QuickBooks Desktop in like 2009, I want to say. And so it was terrible. QuickBooks
Yeah.
Online was not good. I was using Bill.com, QuickBooks Online. Is it okay to say that? I mean,
Yeah,
I think
my audience knows I'm full on zero here at my
oh,
firm.
okay.
Like I have a lot of people in the audience that obviously are in QuickBooks, but I joke a lot about like hating it, right? Like it's just it is what it is.
Well, and that's why when David and I started the podcast, it was like I was the Zero guy, he was the QuickBooks guy. But now they're so similar. It's like Pepsi Coke. It's your flavor, whatever you
Yeah.
like, right? That's what it is. And so I don't fight those battles anymore. Like it's whatever you want. You can do what you want. I personally think that Zero has a much better cash accrual engine.
For sure.
That's where a lot of issues happen with QuickBooks, but that's super nerdy and most people don't care. You know?
I care. And side note, anyone listening, if you're helping any SaaS clients, software as a service, typically they want to see accrual financials, but they also want to see cash basis stuff.
Yeah.
And so you have to just switch them. There's no getting around that.
And I did that for a client. I put them on Zero and I had a whole strategy where we ran everything, we booked everything cash basis throughout the month. And then we would do journal entries at the end of the month to do the accruals and deferrals. And so we could switch between accrual and cash basis reports and they all tied out perfectly.
Yeah.
You can't do that in QuickBooks.
I don't even know if you can do that in most ERP systems. Like
Wow.
Xero really has like their direct cash flow statement, like amazing. We could never even figure that out in corporate with the system that we had. Like we were recreating the wheel and I'm like, how did Xero figure this out and Great Plains didn't? Like
it's because Xero had actual CPAs writing code. Like Peter Wen is an example of that. He was at Xero in the US when they started. He was one of the first dozen employees and he's a CPA and he was guiding a lot of that development. And, you know, unfortunately, most tech companies serving accountants and bookkeepers don't do that.
Yeah.
They think, you know, it's like this arrogance in the tech world. And I know this because I've worked for technology companies now. They think they know everything.
Yeah.
And they try to tell us what to do. And oh man, that does not go over well when you talk to accountants. Like listen to your customers.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I feel like they just see dollar signs.
Yeah. And so we see this now, like the latest one, I don't know, have you heard of Digits? Yeah, so they've come in with their $100 million and their flashy marketing, and now they're like, we're going to turn bookkeepers and accountants into advisors with our tools. And I'm thinking to myself, I've heard this spiel before. Many companies have come in and they're building the product as they sell it. And I just think it's really funny because I don't see CPAs running this company. I don't see bookkeepers like on the development team. And they're literally in their product forums asking customers, how do I build this kind of report that you want? I mean, that's good that they're doing that, but I don't know. It is funny, right? The founder, of course, founded a company called Crashalytics, which is like for app crashes. And now he's going to like reinvent how we do financial reporting. I mean, kudos to him for being brave and stuff like that, but still, come on. You know, it's a little bit arrogant, isn't it?
Oh, good old tech companies. All right. So I'm also a musician, which is just really funny. Like, I feel like there's a lot of accountants that are musicians.
I think so too, especially classical. I don't know. What do you
Yeah,
play?
I grew up playing trumpet and
Okay.
I taught myself guitar
Nice.
and I also played drums. And now my biggest favorite pet instrument is my ukulele.
Well, that's nice because you can travel with it, right?
Yeah.
Like I played the cello, so that was the most inconvenient instrument to play in school. I had to buy a seat for it on the airplane. Sometimes they would hassle you. The security people wouldn't know what to do. I'm like, let me take it out there. No, we
It's
have
not a
to.
body, I swear.
I know, right? And yeah, so good, good. I wish I picked a smaller instrument, but I do have to say that the ladies loved the cello when I was younger, and that alone, right? I didn't have a lot going for me other than that. So thank you, cello, for being something that got me through.
Awesome. Okay, so one of my questions for you was because you mentioned that you built a bookkeeping business and you sold it.
Yes.
And I'm pretty open with everyone in my world pretty much that like that's my vision with my company is to sell it. So I want to just kind of like hear, is that something that you intended from the beginning, or did you like partway in you were like maybe I could sell this, or was it completely like random, someone came to you and was like I want to buy your business and you're like, oh.
So there were a few stages.
Okay.
First stage was I just needed to make money, so I was freelancing.
Yeah.
Second stage was I discovered the Zero apps and ecosystem, and I realized we could do this all from home, anybody, anywhere. I had that revelation that a lot of people now have.
Yeah.
Just before a lot of people in the US. And I saw it was working in Australia and New Zealand. And I said, I'm going to build a accounting bookkeeping startup and we are going to take over the world. So I actually got an investor with some angel money that allowed us to hire. And I wanted to be basically what Pilot is.
Mm-hmm.
I had that dream and I built it for several years and we got it to close to $1 million in annual revenue, which, like is, I would say that's like the big milestone for a firm. If you can get to that much annual revenue, then it's pretty easy to sell it. And also you could just scale it from there.
Yeah.
But what I discovered as I went from 0 to $1 million was that the hardest part was the people, hiring and retaining other bookkeepers.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I had turnover, it created a ton of friction in the business, meaning just now I got to deal with the clients. Now I got to deal with all the stuff that comes with trying to transition a book of business. And I realized that because bookkeeping is still very relationship oriented, even when you automate a lot of stuff, it was never going to scale like a technology company. And I think a lot of the tech companies that have come in now and are doing this, like Pilot, maybe they still haven't realized that. That's what happened with Scale Factor. I don't know if you heard about that collapse, but they were a technology company. They sold themselves like a software as a service business, and they were basically doing bookkeeping, and they went belly up. And I have it on rumor that they were hiding their cost of labor down in OpEx and not putting it, above not calculating it in their gross margin, like we are supposed to as service businesses. And so I think the investors figured it out, and it went under. But to get back to like my story, I realized that this was a problem and that I could be successful and grow a very successful business, but it wasn't going to be like a tech company. I wasn't going to be a tech founder kind of thing. And I started to just get kind of like tired of it. And so I met a CPA firm owner who wanted to get into the bookkeeping business. He had a tax practice and kind of didn't know how to scale the bookkeeping. And he basically said, I'll merge you in and make you a partner. And so I took the offer. And I think anybody who's done a merger realizes that the first one you do, you don't ask all the questions. You don't figure out everything that's going to happen. And so I wanted to leave after about 8 months. I wasn't happy not being in control anymore. Fortunately, we had negotiated, and I highly recommend this to anybody. If you're going to do a merger or a sale and you're going to stay with the company, I negotiated an exit. I pre-negotiated an exit, like prenup. So if I wanted to leave, I would get to take a certain amount of money and get that paid out to me, and it was pre-negotiated, and we would both be happy with that. So I did that. And so I got rewarded for what I had built, and I was able to go off, and now, I did the tech thing I told you about, and now I'm doing the podcasting thing. But I think I forgot what your original question was.
That answered it, because I was just asking, like, was that your original vision? Did it just kind of happen?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the original vision was very ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
Then it sort of scaled down. And then I kind of got disillusioned, which I think happens when you're building a business like this. It is a roller coaster ride. I mean, you have highs and you have lows. And I had days where I was like dancing, like literally dancing, right, around the house. And then I had days where I was just like, I just want to like burn it all to the ground and go get a regular
I think
job.
we all like, I think that's
No.
a normal part of entrepreneurship, honestly. The trick is to try to be less wanting to burn it to the ground, like less frequently than you feel good about it, right? If the scale tips to where most of the time you want to burn it to the ground, something has to change.
In retrospect, I do regret selling when I did. I got paid fine for it, right? But I could have gotten a lot bigger and I'd be very wealthy now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I wouldn't have had all these opportunities that taught me a lot.
Yeah.
So, and now I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I think that'll be really successful, you know? So like, I'm glad it worked out the way it did. But I would say also, if you're in that place where you're building a firm and you've got like half a dozen employees, it's a very scary place to be, because if one person leaves, you're really screwed. You need to get to like a dozen, get to 20. And if you get to that point where your team has redundancy built in, then you really start to see the fruit of your labor. But there's this tough part. You start at one person, and as soon as you add people, everything is really hard, and it doesn't get easier for like years. And that's why most people, I think, fail. I mean, I wouldn't say most people fail, but a lot of firms, they give up, right? Yeah. And it's because of that. That small firm space, like under 10, is so challenging. So I would say either stay independent and just be a freelancer, or say, I'm going to try to scale past 10. And if you're going to be smaller than that, make sure that you're working with people you know and trust, like family, friends. You don't want to have employees at that size where if they decide to leave and not take care of things, that you're going to be in big trouble. And I had some of those things happen, right? And then I spent months cleaning it up, and it just sucks to be dealing with unhappy clients. That's not fun.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a people pleaser like me, then
I think most accountants are people pleasers. Like, I think that's part of the job description. But do you think that part of disadvantage for you was that you wanted it to be like a tech company and not just a bookkeeping company, and be okay with the bookkeeping margins? Do you think that was part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was it. If I'd had different expectations going into it,
yeah.
Like now, if I did it again, I would know exactly what to expect and how long it would take and how much money it would take. And, you know, I would just say, like, if you're going to do this, it's really good to have a lot of savings, because it's going to take a while before it really starts to pay off. And I didn't. I will say that thinking like a tech company really helped me, because I didn't have any preconceived notions about how to do it.
Yeah.
And so we did really good digital marketing. We built a system where I was able to extricate myself from the client service. So by the end of the 3-4 years, I was not doing any client work whatsoever. I didn't even know the clients who were coming on board. I had no contact with them. I was just sitting back and collecting a check. And I know that's the dream for some people.
Yeah.
It was definitely pretty cool. But to do that, you have to like spend a lot of time documenting processes and building task management and all this stuff that you got to do as a business owner. And then, of course, you do all that, and then you get to deal with HR issues, right?
Yeah, like that's one of the conversations I had today with some of my students, is like, they asked how much time I spend in my firm, and I'm like, not very much. Like, actually meeting with clients, less than a couple hours a week.
That's awesome.
The most time I spend is pouring into my team. So when you get to the point where you're ready to hire people, you have to know that that's where you spend most of your time.
We'll be back after a quick break.
This episode of the Ambitious Bookkeeper podcast is sponsored by my brand new free training, The Ultimate Guide to Creating a Profitable Bookkeeping Business. In just 1 hour, you will learn 3 keys to creating and launching a profitable bookkeeping business. We will map out your path to creating a bookkeeping or accounting business that keeps you in control of your time, priorities, and expertise. From someone who built a 6-figure firm on part-time hours. That's right. You can stay in control of your time, keep family as your priority, and serve your clients well. It just takes a little strategy up front, and I'm going to help you with that during this free training. So head over to the show notes to sign up now for the next training and find out how you can choose the work you do, kick imposter syndrome to the curb, use tech to be super efficient, which all leads to a profitable business. Just head on over to ambitiousbookkeeper.com/training, and I will see you there.
I agree. And create the redundancy, create the systems, create the feedback loops that allow you to know whether they're doing their job and doing good work. Because people need that, right? You can't just hire people and say, go. They will fail. Most people will fail.
Yeah. And the people that will succeed at it are just going to become entrepreneurs.
Exactly. They'll be like, this firm isn't offering me anything that I can't do on my own. I'll just go do it on my own, right? So yeah. And keep it simple. Like we did bookkeeping, bill pay, payroll. We didn't do sales tax. We didn't do tax. We just did those three things. We did them really well. And we served a certain size client. Those are great businesses. It really is. Like, actually, when I left my full-time gig to do the podcasting thing, I actually thought about starting a new firm and documenting it from scratch as like a podcast project. I still have that idea. And actually, I found somebody who I think is going to do it.
That's cool.
So now I'm producing shows, right? So we're going to turn that into like a show, and people will tune in to like hear the journey and learn from the mistakes and all that. And so that's how I'm going to get to do that again.
That's cool. Yeah. I feel like Bean Ninjas did something similar when they did the merger and acquisition, but it might have just been like a small series. But that's that's kind of my plan, because like my vision is to sell my company. So like I'm going to record everything like during the process and not release it till everything's done.
So do you share your numbers, like where you're at? Like where do you want to go?
Yeah. So my vision is probably to sell at that point, like at least at $1 million in revenue.
Yeah.
If I can maintain the margins that I have right now, I will be able to get 3x the revenue. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
But yeah, it's a lot of intention and strategy behind how you price and the clients you bring on and the team you bring on. Like it's intense, but that's what's going to make it attractive for a buyer or an acquisition.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would want to do like a merger, because I just want to exit when I'm ready.
Yeah. And the key is, if you're not doing the client work and you can demonstrate that to an investor, then they'll be confident in acquiring it and letting you go, right? Letting you leave. Otherwise, they're going to want to tie you in for a long time, which if you're an entrepreneur and you like being the boss, it's not fun to have an investor as your boss or some other firm as your boss, as I discovered. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm not in control anymore. This isn't so much fun.
Yeah. And I've seen that from the corporate side as one of the accounting team members when the acquisition happens and when the CEO is discarded like multiple times. So I'm like, I've seen it from internal operations. So I know what to expect there. I know myself. I will already have been removed enough that it won't be an issue. So I will just collect my check and move along. But anywho, so the way I actually got you on this podcast is through Relay, because you are, what is the thing that you're doing with them?
I am the accounting community advocate for Relay Financial.
All right.
It took us a long time.
I didn't want to screw it up.
No, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we took a long time coming up with that title. So got to get it right. Basically, I am their on-call accountant to go talk to the accounting community. So they call me up and they say, hey, Blake, we want to do a webinar and let's pick your brain on what kind of topics do accountants want to hear about. And then I'll host it. And we do this series called Gearing Up with Relay. We just ended our first season, and it's a video series where I interview a firm owner. And in each episode, we talk about one challenge they had and how they solved it. And you can go just search Relay Gearing Up. You'll find it. You can subscribe to get the second season when it comes out. That's been a fun one. It's sort of like a hybrid of like a video series and a podcast. Everything's like both now. Yeah. When I do hear thoughts about how we can improve Relay from accountants and bookkeepers, I pass those on to the team. They ask me for feedback occasionally on the product, like the 1099 reporting thing. I got to talk with Henry, who's the lead product guy, and he asked me a bunch of questions. So hopefully that works for everybody, that export CSV thing you can do. But yeah, it's the way that I pay the bills while I build my own app, which is called Earmark CPE. And that's a mobile app that gets you continuing professional education for listening to podcasts. So I do the Relay stuff, and then I plow all that into development of my app. And it's a great relationship because I use Relay personally for my podcast. I use it for Earmark. I recommend it to everybody. I think the founder, Yusuf, who was at HubDoc. He was employee number 1 at HubDoc, is awesome. He's like a tech guy. It's funny because I just spent like 20 minutes bashing technology companies, but there's some really good people in tech, in accounting, and Yusuf is one of them. The people who stick around. I don't like these people who just come in and they're like, we know nothing about your industry, but we're going to fix everything that's wrong with it, right?
Yeah.
Yusuf has been in this space for like a decade and really building products that help accountants and bookkeepers. And we ran into each other at a conference. We're saying hi, and he was like, hey, what are you doing? And I told him I was leaving my company. He's like, we should talk. So that's how that happened. Yeah.
We'll be right back after we hear a word from our sponsor. Have you ever exported a QuickBooks Online report to a Google Sheet or Excel? Spent time customizing the sheet, inviting others to collaborate, and then discovering that the QuickBooks Online data has changed, forcing you to restart the whole entire process over again? LiveFlow has solved the problem. LiveFlow connects QuickBooks Online to Google Sheets and Excel, allowing you to save sheets that automatically update with the most recent QuickBooks data. There's even a zero integration coming soon. You know, I can't wait for that. Accountants and bookkeepers are using LiveFlow today to create automatically updated budget versus actual and any other custom reports. LiveFlow allows you to position yourself as an advisory partner by saving you hours of repetitive work. Fewer hours spent in spreadsheets give you more time to build deep relationships, offer quick insights, and a high-value offering. What I love about LiveFlow is the speed and depth of insight and how it connects back to QuickBooks Online in real time. The powerful drill down feature lets me investigate any summary number in my Google Sheet, offering a full breakdown of all QuickBooks transactions involved. And the best part is that it's all done in my Google Sheet. LiveFlow opens the QuickBooks transaction detail report in real time. So instead of going into QuickBooks every time, you can see up-to-date underlying transactions together with your client right in Google Sheets. I'd highly recommend taking a look at LiveFlow's free template library created with bookkeepers and accountants from across the US. Make a copy of any template and it's yours forever for free. To learn more about using LiveFlow and how you can save 20% off your first 3 months, go to the show notes and check the link. Claim your spot with the promo code AMBITION. You can also head to liveflow.io/partnerships/ambition. Now let's get back to today's episode.
Yeah. So I love working with Relay. Everybody should go sign up for Relay. Get your clients on Relay. It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm constantly shouting it from the rooftops, which is why I wanted to have you on. So they recently released a partner certification or accountant certification.
That's one of the things I got paid to do. Yeah. That now you're reminding me. Thank you. Yeah. So that's like a 2-hour certification. You can get a badge to put on your website. You can be a Relay certified banking partner. And the idea behind that was to teach accountants and bookkeepers how to advise their clients on banking, because it's not something we are really comfortable doing a lot of the time, but I think is super important. And I don't know about you, but I had clients all the time asking me, hey, I hate Chase. I hate Wells Fargo. I hate B of A. What should I use? And I didn't really have a recommendation for them. And now I do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes our jobs so much easier. The clients that we have on Relay, their bookkeeping is clockwork.
That's right.
Because we have access to the statements and we can go dig into Relay to figure out if something's funky. Like the feeds have only broken once the whole time I've been working with them. And I don't know if it happened to all the clients, but it definitely happened in my own books. But seriously, over the past however many years we've been working with them, for that only to happen once, that happens monthly with other bank accounts.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like every month we're getting our client on the phone to have them re-authenticate the bank because it's, it's probably also a bank that doesn't have statement only access. So we don't have access to it.
And setting up new accounts, I started a new entity for the production company that I'm starting with David Leary. And I got my EIN letter. I went into Relay. I'm signed up as an accountant there. So I just added myself as a client. And then I went in as a client and I started onboarding as if I were a client. I actually hadn't seen what that looks like from that perspective. So I was eager to try it. I just did this like yesterday. And within 10 minutes, I uploaded my driver's license, the articles of incorporation, the EIN assignment letter, and boom, account was set up. I mean, it's just spectacular to be able to do that. And we can open all these different checking accounts for every show that we produce, because we're producing podcasts for different people. And so we sell ads on a show, and then we can move the money into that account and make sure that we don't spend it before we've given out the podcast host's share, because we do a rev share with the host. And like, I just love having that ability to never have to go into a branch and be able to do all that. It's great. They're doing great things.
I think I met Yusuf at BKX last year, and yeah, great person. It was awesome. And I'm proud to be a certified banking partner. I was like,
awesome.
As soon as I saw the email come out, I was like, I'm just going to try this out and see what it is. And I was done within an hour or two, maybe, and got the badge and everything. And then I reached out to you guys. I was like, hey, you want to come on the podcast and talk about it?
That's awesome. Well, thanks for having us on, and thanks for having me on, representing Relay.
Yeah.
I should have worn my Relay shirt.
I know. I'm not wearing mine either.
But
you are wearing your cloud accounting.
Cloud accounting podcast shirt. It's okay, because most people are going to listen to this as a podcast, so I'm good.
Yeah, we are good there. So what is next for you? So you briefly talked about earmark CPE. That's what it's called, right? The app.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, go on the App Store. You go on iOS App Store, Apple App Store, Google Play. You just search for earmark CPE, like financial earmark, and you'll find us. What else can I say about it? It's free. You can get one CPE every week for free. Now, I know that if you aren't a CPA, you probably don't have a continuing professional education requirement, but even if you don't, it's a great place to find new accounting and bookkeeping and tax podcasts, because we try to get as many of them as possible on the app. And hey, like, you can go and take courses and take a quiz, and you can learn without having to check the box.
Yeah, that's honestly like sort of genius. When I was I think it was after I got licensed and I was looking at CPE stuff, it's come a long way, but also still hasn't. And I always thought it would be really nice to get CPE for listening to audiobooks or podcasts or whatever, because I've been a podcast listener since a long time ago, like pretty much when they started, I feel like. And that's always how I would consume content while I was working. And I felt kind of the same way about the study courses for the CPA exam, is like, you had to be in front of a computer. And I just hate that. Like, I'm in front of a computer all day. I don't want to go home and be in front of the computer again to study for my exams. So I feel the same way about CPE. And I feel like I had the thought of doing what you're doing, and you stole my idea.
Well, great minds think alike.
Yeah, but I never did anything about it. So I'm glad you're doing it, though, because that's the thing about ideas. And I'm going to get a little woo here in a second, but like, you will have an idea at some point in your life where if you don't action it, someone else will action it, even if you never talked about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm not the only one who does this. There's another company in Canada called LumiQ that's doing podcasts, CPE. I feel like there's a lot of room in this market for different approaches. Like, they're more like a Netflix, where they produce all their own content. It's like super high quality. It's an expensive subscription because, you're paying for what you get. For me, we're more like a YouTube, where it's, anyone can create a course. I want to make it like super easy for anyone to take a video they made or a podcast, and then we wrap it in a CPE course. And we do that. Like, you can make one for free. So if you have content, listeners, if you have content like a podcast episode or a YouTube video, we just have to make sure it meets the minimum length requirements, because of course NASBA rules are time-based. So it has to be like 40 minutes at least.
Okay.
If you've got like 40 minutes of content, contact me, Blake at earmarkcpe.com. We can put it up on the app as a course, and you can help other folks learn what you know. And so I want it to make it like a community thing. That's the idea.
That's really awesome. I didn't realize that we could submit content.
Yes. So like this show could be on Earmark for CPE credit.
Well, let's do it, because I have lots of accountants and bookkeepers listening to my show.
All right. And we do one for free for all of our authors. So just, you tell me which episode or episodes to get to that minimum requirement you have, and send that to me, and we'll get it up on the app like in a couple weeks.
Awesome. So you do one
Don't
for
do this
free.
one though, because there's way too much of me on this app.
Oh, that's okay. I have some ideas.
Okay.
So one is free, but for like the audience, if someone has, say, I don't know, 4 hours of content that they're teaching inside of their firm to their team, for example.
Yeah. So if you want this to be internal to your team and you don't want it to be like available publicly, that is on the roadmap. We're going to create that. So you could have a private channel and then only your team would see that.
Okay.
And you could offer them CPE. I think that'll be really helpful too for like the mid-sized firms where they have internal trainings.
Yeah.
And you could basically make your onboarding like CPE eligible.
Yeah.
Or like all your weekly trainings that you do CPE eligible. We don't have that now though, but what we
That's
do
actually
have,
wasn't what I was thinking, but that's really awesome that it's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. So
what I meant was like, if you already have the content that you're providing your team internally and making sure that your team's educated on certain stuff and you want to share it, like, what does that look like if someone has more than one course?
So we have a DIY template. It's an Excel sheet, of course, and you just fill that in. It has everything that we need to set up your course in the app. I find that if I have to listen to the whole thing and then make the template, it takes about 2 to 3 hours. So if you already know the content because you made it, budget an hour to fill out the template, make the review questions. There's like 8 multiple choice questions you got to make. That takes the most time. You just send that our way and we put it on the app for free. So like you could actually put every single episode of this podcast on Earmark and we won't charge you a dime. The idea is just that we want to get more people using Earmark because we do have a subscription that unlocks unlimited CPE. So right now, the way it works is you come on the app every week, you get a free credit. And that's enough for most people. Like most people don't need more than 1 a week to hit their requirement.
Right.
Which is for me, 40 hours a year. But let's say you've got a deadline coming up. And
that's the case for most of us. Let's be honest.
You need to get 10 hours. Well, then we have a subscription to unlock that. So it's not throttled. And then that's $100 a year. So still really, really affordable. Like I wanted to make it as cheap as possible because I want as many people as possible to be able to enjoy this. I mean, we all win when we share knowledge, right? So my hope is I want to get 100,000 people on this app. And if I can get like 10,000 people to pay $100 a year, I've got $1 million a year business and we can actually run this company forever. On that. It's not that expensive because we've automated all the issuance of the CPE certificates. It's self-study. Like it's not like we're putting on webinars every day.
Yeah.
So that's my dream is I want to build another $1 million business, but this one is CPE.
That's awesome.
And we can make the world a better place, right? Improve the quality of CPE. You know, the CPA societies kind of like do a lot of the CPE or the AICPA and they try hard, right? You know, I know they're trying, but it's just like, it's been the same for like 30 years, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's a new generation of accountants. We're expecting something different.
Yeah. We've already got, you know, our first 50 subscribers. We launched it this month. We're 5% of our way to our 1,000 subscriber initial goal.
Awesome.
And we got 2,500 registered users on the app. And so, yeah, I think there's hopefully it's going to work. And if it doesn't, it wasn't that expensive to build it. So, well, relatively anyway.
Yeah.
Because my developer is in Pakistan. My CPE manager is in the Philippines. We're a global company. I mean, this is the way a lot of firms are moving too, right? Like I know a ton of firms using labor or staff. They're hiring staff I feel like calling it using labor. It's like just not the right term because these are people. It is like building offices in Mexico and in the Philippines and in India. And like, it's the only way we're going to overcome this labor shortage that we have here in the US.
Yeah.
So I'm doing it myself too.
Cool. Well, that's really exciting to hear like what your vision is for Earmark. I just love talking all business things. So that's exciting. Now my wheels are turning.
I like talking about the numbers, right? When people care about the numbers. And so I do try to be public with that, share it, right? I mean, you know, we're not a not-for-profit, but I think it's like, if we treat our members right and we share and we're transparent, then people will support us. And yeah, we're all looking to do the same thing in the end, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So I'm probably going to have to put some of my podcast episodes up on Earmark.
Now you have to. I see. This is my trick too. I come on to podcasts and then I pitch Earmark and then I get a commitment on the recording, and now it's like, you got to do it, right? You can't not do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Evil
Fortunately,
marketing
though,
strategy.
only my interview podcasts are the ones that usually ever hit that 40-minute mark. My solo ones are shorter.
Oh, we can bundle those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we could like, and I did this with like, I think I did it with Ryan Lazanis's podcast, which is like really short.
Yeah, his are super short.
Yeah, we just bundled like 5 episodes together. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So that's your current project. It's hopefully more profitable than just passion project.
Someday.
Yeah. So where should people go to connect with you? There's lots of different ways, but what's the best place?
So you want to learn about Earmark, which I just talked up, earmarkcpe.com, or just download the app from the App Store. Personally, I am at blakeoliver.com, and you can connect with me on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn. I am Blake T. Oliver on all of those platforms, at Blake T as in Thomas Oliver. And yeah, I just started, like, I made my Instagram account public now. Like I just like finally did it. And it's kind of scary, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, fun. So I'm posting more on there. So follow me on Instagram.
Yeah. I think a lot of my listeners are on Instagram for sure, because that's where I mostly hang out there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm wrong about my listeners. Actually, I have no idea, but that's where I hang out. I think if you're going to find people to do the earmark thing, specifically CPAs, that's probably a good place to do some stuff.
Yeah, I think so. And Twitter is like, I've heard Twitter described as like a cocktail hour.
I'm not
and
on
LinkedIn.
Twitter.
Twitter's fun. So like Cloud Accounting Podcast is a news show. You know, it's current events. So Twitter is like the place to be for current events. Like you want to get all the breaking stuff.
Right.
So that's why it's good for us there. We talk about it. You know, LinkedIn is of course the buttoned up professional networking site. It's becoming better.
Yeah.
But yeah, Instagram is just, you know, I had to get used to like, I don't know, I'm 30. How old am I? 38. I had to get used to like recording video of myself, you know, holding my phone as a selfie camera. Like it was not natural.
Yeah. But you like being on stage. So you just look at it as a stage.
You just got to practice. You got to do it. And like the first 100 episodes I made were not very good of the podcast. Like it takes a long time to get good at anything. And so you just got to like do it. And what I say to myself is just that if it's not good, then thank you to the algorithm, nobody will see it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's okay. If you're putting out garbage content, it's okay because nobody will see it. And you do something good, people will see it. So don't worry about it, right? Nobody cares. When you're scrolling through your feed and you like see something that you kind of skip through, like, do you think about it? No, nobody thinks about that. They'll just skip.
Yeah.
So it's like,
man, that Blake T. Oliver guy.
Yeah. It's like
his Instagram is horrible.
Yeah. His lighting's bad and can't hear him and it doesn't know how to. It took me forever. You know, the thing that was hard, this is when I started to realize I was getting older, is like the captions. I couldn't figure out how to put captions on my videos. I was like, how does this work? Like the filters, you know, like I finally figured it out. Unfortunately, like my kid's only 7, so I don't have like a teen to like show me how to do all this stuff. Like I'm kind of jealous of my co-host because he's got teenagers and they can just like teach him.
I do too, but she does not willingly share that information.
That's the other problem.
She just watches from the sidelines and replies to my stories and tells me how cringy I am.
Laughs at you. Cringe. I want a t-shirt that just says I'm cringe, you know, like I don't know what, or it's just cringe.
Yeah, I don't think adding captions is that complicated.
Well, it was like trying to do it after the fact, you know.
Oh,
like you couldn't do it after the fact for a while, and then
they have glitches occasionally where you can't.
This was a little while ago. Now it's easier. But I feel like when people first started doing that, it was hard.
And not everybody gets features that are new either. And then you just think that you're stupid, but you're like, no, I literally just don't even have that button.
It's a crazy world we live in, but I don't know. There's just like, what's great about it is the ability to connect with people all over the world, right? The things that are horrible about it are also what's great about it. It's like, the horrible thing is now you're comparing yourself. I'm like so glad I'm not a teenager in this era because you're not just comparing yourself to everybody in high school. You're comparing yourself to everybody in the world. That is crazy and it's got to be depressing. But now also you can like meet all these other people who have the same interests. Like you and I, we would not be doing this 10 years ago. Like it didn't exist. Like there was no way, unless we both ended up at somehow the same conference in Phoenix, we would never meet.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to
so,
be at a conference there tomorrow, actually.
oh, well, if you got some free time, let's get a coffee or something.
Very riveting. It's a tax conference, which I honestly have no business even being at, but I need some CPE.
What? Oh, this is for CPE? Well, there's an app for that now.
I know. I've already registered and I just want to get out. So we're going to go. I'm going to
Where
probably
is it?
not know
What
anybody
resort
there.
is it? Is it at a resort? Is it at it's got to be at a resort, right?
Where is it at? It's at like a convention conference.
Oh, is that a
center.
convention center?
It's like
It's probably not a fun conference then.
No, it's one that I used to go to when I was at the CPA firm, Desert Willow Conference Center in actual Phoenix.
Oh.
He's Googling it, people. Yeah.
This is
so
the beauty
it's just an all-day summer CPE seminar with some sales tax updates and some other updates I probably don't even care about, but I'm going to get the CPE.
All right. Well, hey, on your way back from Prescott or on your way back from the conference, Scottsdale's on the way up north.
Yeah.
So look me up.
All right.
I mean, I work at home. I look for every excuse I can to get out and meet real people in real life. Like this office here, it's like a cubicle prison in a way. I mean, I love it. I love working at home, but also it's important to get out and meet people.
Yeah, which is basically why I'm going to this conference.
Good.
Even though I'm probably not going to talk to anybody there because I'm introvert.
Oh, yeah? You don't seem like it.
Yeah, I have my moments.
Yeah.
Today, the switch is on because I've been doing lots of interviews. And tomorrow I'm going to be, that's going to be rough because now I'm going to be around more people and I'm going to be exhausted. That's okay.
So for me, the difference I've heard between an introvert and extrovert is extroverts are energized by interacting with people and introverts get exhausted by it. Yeah. And I definitely do get I love being on stage. I love performing. I love talking to people. But then at the end, I'm wiped out.
Yeah. Yeah. I will feel like that after I get off the call with you. For sure, I'm going to be okay, I need a nap now.
So my trick at conferences is if I stop, I lose it, right? Yes. Then I just don't want to go back. So my rule is I just stay, I go hard at the conference talking to people and I don't let myself go back to the room until it's time to sleep.
Yeah.
And I try to do it all in a compressed time frame. My trick now is I do 2 nights at a conference and then I'm out.
Okay.
So I just do it 2 days.
You don't get FOMO for not staying for the whole thing?
I mean, it kind of, but then, you can kind of figure out what are going to be the best days and you try to go then. And I feel like that's the best for introverts anyway. If I do too much, I just I get exhausted and then I'm not having a good time. And then I don't want to go talk to people. And that's the worst feeling. That's when I had a telemarketing job. I don't know why anyone thought I would be good at that, but that was it feels like that. It's oh no, I have to pick up the phone again and dial somebody I don't know.
I can't even make my own doctor's appointments. What am I doing?
Well, actually today, this is a really great place. The world is a great place for introverts now because we don't have to call anyone really.
Yeah. You can order your pizza online. It just takes twice as long. But it's worth it.
It is worth it. And you can just have now, thanks to COVID, you can just have people drop stuff at the door and it's not rude.
Oh, that's true.
Right? You don't even have to answer the door when the delivery person comes.
That is very true.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that's funny.
At our grocery store, we can go to the grocery store and somebody will just bring it out to your car, put it in the trunk. You don't even have to look at them.
Yeah, I do that too. Well, I have little kids, so it's
that is fantastic. I wish we'd had that when Thomas was an infant. The worst part was having to get him in and out of the car for everything. Now you can just have all the stuff brought to the car.
Yeah.
How old are your
and
kids?
You actually spend less on groceries because you're not perusing the halls or the aisles.
How old are your kids?
A 4, a 6, and a 16-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good range there. 16-year-old help?
Yeah, she's pretty helpful. I don't force it on her though because they're not her kids. But if she wants to make some money, she can help.
If she doesn't want to pay rent, she can help, right?
There's that approach, I suppose.
Yeah, there you go. It's earn your keep. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just got the one.
Yeah.
So he's spoiled out of his mind.
Yep. That was her for 10 years. Anywho, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and everyone got to be a fly on the wall for our conversation. And thank you for sharing your story. Yeah. I was very curious about that. Even though I'm a listener of your podcast, I don't know if I've ever heard the whole entire story, just bits and pieces of it. So.
Well, thanks for having me on. I hope to see you in person and connect with you. And yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. You'll be at XeroCon, right?
I'll be at XeroCon.
I'll see you there.
The Cloud Accounting Podcast is officially media at XeroCon.
Oh,
So come say hi.
Will.
We got stickers. We've got T-shirts. You can get one of these sweet Cloud Accounting Podcast T-shirts to wear around Prescott, you said?
Yep. Perfect. Goes along with all my other accounting stuff. T-shirts.
Exactly.
Like
your
that's
other-
all I wear. Today
that's
was the one day I didn't wear a HubDoc shirt or a Xero shirt.
That was the problem with COVID too, is like I ran out of clothes to wear because all of them got holes in them,
Yeah.
So
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and make sure you connect with Blake on all of the platforms or any of the platforms. Links will be in the show notes, and we'll talk to you soon.
thanks, Serena. Bye, everyone.
Thank you to everyone who helps make this podcast possible. Content and interviews are produced by me, Serena Shoup. Our intro and outro music is written and performed by my brother, Ian Gilliam. Editing is also by Ian using his awesome sound engineering skills along with Descript software. Hosting and publishing is by Buzzsprout, and you can check out the show notes for links to all of these amazing resources and resources mentioned in the episode.
Be ambitious.